In the early 15th century, in the Transylvanian town of Sighisoara, a child was born to the noble Vlad Tepes Dracula, a member of the Order of the Dragon, a Christian knightly order created to fight the encroaching Ottoman Turks. This child, later known as Vlad III Dracula, will become one of history's most feared and mythologized rulers. His epithet, Tepes, meaning the Impaler, was earned through the grisly methods he employed to enforce order and terrify enemies. Vlad's early years were shaped by power struggles and foreign dominance. In 1442, when he was just a boy, he and his younger brother Radu were taken as hostages by the Ottoman Sultan Murad II, a common political practice of the time, to ensure their father's loyalty. They were kept at the Ottoman court, where Vlad learned Turkish, Arabic, military strategy, and court politics. But while Radu adapted to life under the Ottomans and later converted to Islam, Vlad seethed with resentment and developed a hatred for the Turks and for treachery in general. These formative years, marked by betrayal, isolation, and humiliation, planted the seeds of the brutality he would later become infamous for. Vlad's father and older brother were murdered in 1447, his father likely betrayed by local nobles, boyars, and his brother buried alive by rival factions. This betrayal by his own elite caste left a deep scar, and when Vlad eventually returned to Wallachia and seized power, he sought not only to reclaim his throne, but to destroy the boyar class that had betrayed his family. His first reign in 1448 was short-lived, lasting only a few months, before he was driven out by his rivals. He returned to power decisively in 1456, supported by Hungarian forces under John Hunyadi. From the moment he reclaimed the throne, Vlad embarked on a campaign of terror and purification. He summoned hundreds of boyars to a grand Easter banquet in Targovist, and after demanding proof of their loyalty, he had the older nobles impaled on stakes, and the younger ones marched to the mountains to build his fortress at Poenary. Many died from exhaustion. This act wasn't merely vengeance. It was a calculated dismantling of the aristocracy to centralize his power and ensure that no noble could challenge him again. Impalement was Vlad's signature punishment. Victims were stripped naked, and a dull wooden stake was driven into their body, often to the rectum or vagina, so as not to pierce vital organs immediately. The stake would be erected vertically, and the condemned would writhe in agony for hours, sometimes days, before dying. This spectacle of suffering was deliberate. Vlad believed that terror was a tool of governance. By horrifying people into submission, he would maintain order and loyalty. He applied it ruthlessly, not just to nobles and enemies, but to common criminals, beggars, adulterers, and thieves. In one infamous anecdote, he placed a golden goblet in a public fountain in Targovist and declared that anyone who stole would be executed. No one dared. Crime in his realm vanished almost entirely, but so too did mercy. Vlad's reign coincided with increasing pressure from the Ottoman Empire, which demanded tribute and loyalty. But unlike his brother Radu, who remained loyal to the Turks, Vlad defied them. In 1461, after initially agreeing to pay tribute, he stopped sending money and launched a series of brutal raids across the Danube into Ottoman territory. He burned villages, slaughtered thousands, and left survivors impaled to spread panic. His most audacious move came in 1462, when the Sultan Mehmed II, fresh from conquering Constantinople, led a massive army into Wallachia to depose him. Despite being heavily outnumbered, Vlad resorted to guerrilla tactics. He poisoned wells, burned crops, and attacked the Ottoman camp at night in a terrifying raid that came close to assassinating the Sultan himself. As the Ottomans advanced toward Targovist, they encountered a horrifying sight: a forest of 20,000 impaled corpses arranged meticulously along the road. Men, women, and children, Ottoman prisoners, traitors, and perhaps even innocent civilians, had all been skewered and left to rot. The psychological effect was profound. Even hardened soldiers were unnerved. Though the Ottomans occupied Targovist briefly, they soon withdrew. However, Vlad's victories could not secure his reign. Political alliances shifted rapidly, and he was soon betrayed again, this time by the Hungarian King Matthias Corvinus, who imprisoned him in 1462 after accusing him of collaborating with the Ottomans, likely based on forged letters. Vlad remained in captivity for over a decade, during which time his enemies ruled Wallachia, including his brother Radu. Eventually, Vlad was released and returned to power in 1476 with Hungarian and Moldavian support. But his third reign was brief. Within months, he was ambushed and killed, either by Ottoman agents or possibly by treacherous Wallachian boyars who feared his return. His body was reportedly decapitated, and his head sent to the Sultan in Istanbul, preserved in honey as proof of his death. The site of his burial is uncertain. Some claim he was interred at the monastery of Snagov, but excavations have never confirmed this. His body may have been moved or lost to history. Vlad the Impaler's legacy is complex. To Romanians, especially during nationalist revivals in the 19th and 20th centuries, he became a symbol of resistance against foreign domination, a defender of Christian Europe, and a strict but just ruler who enforced law and order. To Western Europe and the Ottoman chroniclers, he was a sadistic tyrant, a monster who impaled tens of thousands and reveled in bloodshed. His name lived on not only in historical accounts, but in the imagination of the West. When Bram Stoker wrote Dracula in 1897, he borrowed the name Dracula and some elements of Wallachian history, though the connection between Vlad and vampirism is entirely fictional. There is no record of Vlad drinking blood or associating with folklore about the undead, but his bloody legend and the dark charisma of his defiance made him an ideal template for one of literature's most enduring monsters. What remains undeniable is that Vlad the Impaler was a ruler forged in a time of chaos, betrayal, and warfare, who used cruelty not as madness, but as statecraft. He terrified his enemies, silenced dissent, and carved out a name that history will never forget, not for kindness or diplomacy, but for impalement, and for the terrifying power of calculated fear.